does America do abroad, and what are these places like? It's totally unique, and being that it's a former communist, it's virtually the North Korea, or was, of Europe. Their
Yeah, so
leader,
I mean,
Enver Hoxha, was a psychopath.
all that said, especially what you just said there last there, don't you think it's at least, well, I don't know, reasonable for someone like myself to be like, oh yeah, like whether this guy knows it or not, like he's working for the CIA in some sort of capacity.
I mean, I don't have any issue with you thinking that or whatever. I see how you reached that conclusion. And
Well,
it's
let's
like
put
I
it
said
this
earlier,
way.
USAID did ask if we could form youth groups to keep elements of ISIS at the time that they knew were in the city from recruiting young men to go to places like Syria and Iraq and fight American troops. That was
Yeah,
something that was actually
interesting.
happening in the area. There,
Yeah,
there had
that's
people
what
who
I'm
had
talking
left.
about.
They
That's the
went
kind of
there
stuff
and
I'm talking
fought.
about.
They had been radicalized. They came back. They were in the city. They were in the mosques. And they were looking for, because this place is like dirt poor. So they would offer a 16-year-old young man like, hey, do you want to prove your worth? Do you want to prove you're tough? Do you want to fuck up the people who put you in this position? I have a way you could do it.
Are these the
And then
kids that
take
you
them and
taught?
radicalize them and ship them off.
Are these the kids you taught?
Uh, there's no way to know if any of them were ever approached. All I know is that one of the things that USAID was saying
Well,
was,
how do you
number
know that
one,
was said then?
what do you mean? How do I know what was said?
What you just said was said to them.
Oh,
It's
about
not
ISIS kids,
something
yeah.
that I was, yeah, that was what USAID relayed. That there are elements trying to actively recruit from the population who have been fighting in these places.
Oh, so
So, yeah.
USA told you that?
Yeah, the USAID was there, and I was pissed because they refused to fund one of my projects to build like a local park for kids
Really?
to play. But that's not what their purpose was. They said focus on youth groups because the Devil's Playground is idle hands type of deal, and there's a lot of young men who are testosteroned up and angry because they're poor, they have no prospects, and we don't want them
Mm.
to fall in the clutches of these
So,
radical elements that have come back.
so
So you need to
what you're
keep them kind of
saying,
distracted.
is that you were in Albania as a teacher working with K
Hmm.
through 12,
Hmm.
and that
Well,
you
3 through 12.
or 3 through 12,
No,
and
yeah,
US Aid was basically funding some of it, or through
they
grants,
wanted to. They
or they
wanted to use
wanted
us.
to.
Yes.
Okay, well, but they were basically providing you like, hey, this is what we want from you. It's basically to make sure that these kids aren't radicalized and
Yeah.
they don't get picked off. And then you were basically kind of intertwining that with your curriculum.
That's what they wanted us to do. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Use your position.
Is that what you ended up? I mean, I
No,
mean
I
it's a
never
reasonable
actually did
thing,
it.
right? Oh, you
They
never
Hang
had
on,
to
hang on,
like
hang on.
implement.
You're telling me that USAID was telling you what to teach in your curriculum?
No, 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 not telling me what to teach. What they were saying is develop like after school programs, things like that.
Okay,
and
but
and
they
focus it
USAID
on.
came to you.
Keep the kids busy, you
Well,
mean?
dude, they're funding pride parades in Africa and stuff, is what
Well,
they
that's what they
just
tell
said,
you
you
they're
know.
funding, but they don't actually send that
Yeah,
money there.
but are they funding pride parades in Africa and talking to the dude that touched Babbitt 3 seconds after she was shot? I don't
This
know.
when
It's
when
kind
it
of rare.
when they exposed what USAID was doing, and actually there was a list that just came out here of the most, like, it's a ridiculous one. It was like 10 of the most wealthy individuals in Albania now are all receiving $50,000 here and there from USAID. It was exposed. It was a huge scandal here. It just happened, and I was like, "You've got to be fucking kidding me!" They're women's empowerment groups. It's all these different groups, but none
Hmm.
of the stuff that they claim to be doing. Like, we have an office, but no one is in it, and no one goes there, and there's no women's groups meeting. So what are you doing with the money that's being sent here? I can validate it for you on the fucking ground. It doesn't
Wow.
exist, and yet
I
the
had
money's
I had
going
no
there.
idea that
They're getting
USAID.
weekly paychecks from USAID. It's like,
Have
what the
you ever
fuck?
been paid from USAID?
No, I was not.
But who pays your
Well, that's
paycheck?
because the Peace Corps does
The Peace Corps
grants
has
to
its
the
own budget.
USID.
The
Okay.
Yeah, so it is
USAID would just
USID.
offer
It's
you
just through the
grants for
grant.
programs. Whether or not those programs ever turn into anything, that's something I never got to experience firsthand because they never gave me a grant.
So do you think that there is anybody there working with or near you, either with USAID or in the Peace Corps or anywhere in the town or area that you're working in that is an intelligence agent?
No one near me, no. As far as Peace Corps, none of the volunteers are intelligence assets. If they were in some way intelligence assets, they wouldn't know it. It wouldn't be
Yeah,
something like I need you to do the
exactly.
intelligence
So
gathering.
are you
It would be
Yeah,
possibly not knowing it?
if
and no
you
teacher on the ground is going to be
Hold
really
on,
attuned
so
to
Jesse.
let
There's a
special
let
hand.
me
agents.
explain it so that you understand how it would be. What they were asking me to do specifically was to create youth groups, like civil activist groups, to teach them American values of democracy and things. But what they asked while you're doing it is keep your eyes out for radicalism, for who they're speaking to, for where they're going all day. Ask them, see what's going on. Now, USAID also had
That's a
staff who
spy.
would attend these groups with you, okay? So that they would do the spying. You are doing the indirect, hey, like how was your day? They're not asking you to be like, go and ask, have you talked to Raj Aldal or whatever? Nothing like that. But like, oh, you go to the mosque? Oh, tell me about your time in the mosque. You're not asking them because you want to know if they have a radicalized mosque. You're asking them, and the guy behind you is intently breaking that down. What does that
No,
mean?
no, you're asking him so the guy behind that you can hear it.
Yeah, and break it down. I'm not
Yeah,
getting
which is the
anything out
same
of it. I'm
thing. I mean,
not. I'm not going. Oh, okay, that sounds like an ISIS recruiting center. But the guy behind me is.
Yeah,
They
well, then
they
Troy, you're up
who
they
next.
the
painted in
guy
Yeah,
such a
behind you?
way
Who
that
does he
you
work
are
for?
USAID. That's what's on his resume.
Who does the
go
guy
ahead,
behind you
Troy.
work for? Is the question.
That's what I was saying.
So who's your boss?
I would report to the country director, which is a Peace Corps person. So I wouldn't report to USAID. If they asked me for anything, I could tell them to go fuck off. That would be perfectly acceptable. And that's
But
basically
you
what I did. I was like, I
but
don't want to do your
you
program.
said they're
You don't
not
want to
they're
fund
not
my
there
project.
anymore. They left there.
I have no idea if there's even Peace Corps present in the city anymore. I was the last volunteer that had been sent there.
Oh, so
Before,
you don't do the Peace Corps stuff anymore.
no, it's only for 2 years. That is the term of your service, and after that, you're done. You could reapply if you wanted to, but I didn't want to. I left, and COVID happened, so Peace Corps closed for like a year and a half.
Oh, so you're there just by your own
I'm
choice
I'm
right
back
now.
here now because this was a place I was familiar with, and I said, "Fuck trying to live under a Joe Biden term." They just tried to kill Donald Trump. I'm not staying here because I didn't know what they would try to do to J6ers. So I
Yeah.
left. I went back to Albania. I know the language. I know the people. Like I'm comfortable here. It's not like
Can
a
you can you
foreign place to
say
me.
can you say Donald Trump won the 2020 election in Albanian?
You want me to say it in Albanian?
Yeah.
Give me one sec. Let me try to cobble it together in my little lizard brain here because it is almost 5 a.m. It would be
Damn.
Donald Trump fiton. I don't know how to say election, but fiton. He won. That would be how you
Shit
say
on.
it. Fiton.
Okay.
Fiton.
It's just you know what I have to say
Kafituar would
is
be a
odd.
criminal.
The part that's odd to me is that um USAID is in this small remote area
They
in
are
Albania.
everywhere. They're not in one. They're everywhere. Our government is literally everywhere. If they know what fucking Muhammad fucking Hoja did in Syria, in some fuck all goddamn backland mining town where there's more sheep than people, you think they're not every fucking where? That's what I don't think people realize when they say things like, oh, but you were pardoned. That's how far they go for some nobody. then how
Yeah.
far would they go to someone who they actually say, you were in the Capitol building and brought a fight to us? You think it will ever stop?
So,
We are
so
marked for life, period.
do you think that USAID was working with the CIA at all?
I think they were working with every agency we have to advance American interest in any way we needed them to, period. And when I say we, I
Um,
mean the United States government, not necessarily you, me. But it's absolutely, we have been manipulating events all over the place. And you don't know that unless you go out to these places and see yourself just how far the reach is.
who's we? America?
Americans, regular Americans, people who I like to call kitchen table conservatives, they like to talk about it at dinner. Ah, fucking Obama, blah blah blah. Yeah, but what do you actually know about anything? Do you
Yeah.
have you left the country? Have you gone to any other place on earth? Have you even left your home state in your lifetime? Then what are you talking about and what will you do about it? Nothing, I gotta go to work. Well then shut up. Because you're obviously not interested in fixing it. And I don't want to hear you yap about it. I've lived it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I went to prison for it. I watched someone die for it. So I don't want to hear people talk about what they think. Now is the time for doing. And if you're not doing, then shut the fuck up, get the fuck out of the way, and let people who are willing to do things
So
do them.
what should we do? What do you think the action is?
Well, it's like I said earlier, one of the very first things I want to do is get back home and start an organization who are going to hold some of these representatives accountable. If my governor turns out to be Jack Citrielli and Trump endorsed him, which is what happened, then he needs to enact a Trump like agenda, not a fucking rhino agenda. And if he doesn't, then he needs to be gone, and the next one up has to be willing to do it. The only people who are going to defend our democracy is us. That's what the founding fathers intended. It's a republic and it's free if you can keep it. And if you can't, then you deserve what comes next. They entrusted it to us. So far, we're failing. Really bad. I've never seen more spineless, pussy ass bitch behavior from people in my life. And it was never more evident than January 6th, where someone was killed, where people were being arrested, and the general public said, well, I don't condone that violence that you guys did walking around. Walking around.
Yeah.
That was treated as violence. So to me, that's emblematic of the weakness of the American people, not the strength and not the will to do what needs to be done, which is push for change, run for office, go. Stop talking about how you can't take a day off work and do anything meaningful. Do it. I'm just
Yeah.
tired of it. I'm tired of the talk. You know what I mean? It's all. Everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants their opinion
Hey
heard,
Tom,
and then they never want to do anything with it.
Yeah.
hey Tom, I think you bring up. Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Um, I think you bring up a great point. I don't agree with it, but the idea of people walking in America being upset about that, I think that's a great like conversation, but I think you got it wrong. The fact is that, and you heard me with Jake Lang earlier, and I apologize to his fiance for calling him a cocksucker. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I do have strong feelings about the guy because him and people like him did things that were way beyond walking through a building. And that's the disconnect is that, I was there 3 months in a row, like specifically to document the events and not to be as so much a protester or whatever. And I'm telling you right now, like the crowd was not with people swinging bats. It was, and I know Andrew's the host of this show. They weren't with people going through broken windows either. Okay. And now there is a moment where that is actually maybe necessary. Maybe if we get there, I don't know, but it
What
wasn't
moment?
J6.
What's your line?
Well, look, I don't know. I mean, that's a big discussion. I can't, I'm not going to get into that. What I'm going to say is this, is it wasn't J6. And if it was, the crowd would have been right behind you. They weren't behind you. They were basically appalled. When I got back to my hotel, the people that didn't get up front, they thought it was all hunky dory until they saw how CNN covered it. And they were like, wait,